Well, thank you everyone for coming. This is the second semester, spring semester's classical conference lecture for the students in classical architecture. We like to give one or two of these a year featuring somebody from our community here who is a classical architect, a recognized classical architect who didn't necessarily begin that way or with that sort of educational background. And I guess the point of what we're trying to do here is have a conversation about the stuff that we're doing in this school and the things that our lecturer has experienced. And Professor Duncan Stroik will be with us tonight, and we thank him for coming. And here he is to talk about his work. So thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Don.
You begin.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming. It's being videotaped, so I'm going to pretend to be professorial, okay? Keith, don't stand there here in the middle of the movie. Sit down. Come on, sit down. There's plenty of room. Okay, so classical converts implies, implies a conversion and implies a conversion from something to something else, right? Have you already talked about this a lot? Is that boring, the religious analogy? So, I'm the son of an architect. I have a brother who's an architect. My little brother wanted to be an architect. And my sister is an artist, and I'm married to an artist. And so we don't know what else to do with ourselves. But I was raised by an architect, and the fun thing to do for the fun thing for architects to do with their children, this is what you have to know, I'm giving you a hint now, is the same thing that architects do when they don't have children. So they take their children to have fun with them doing things that they do as adults. What's that? Draw. What else? Visiting buildings. So we went and visited buildings my whole life. Okay, kids, we're going to go have fun now. What are we doing, Dad? Visiting buildings. Great! Great! And the interesting thing was my father went to the University of Pennsylvania, which was where he studied with that guy, Lou Kahn, and they still were taught history here, whereas history had already been gotten rid of at Harvard and other places. Do you believe me? They got rid of history of architecture. So the guys from Harvard didn't know any history. The guys from Penn still studied. My dad loved history, loved historic buildings. We lived in historic buildings in Philadelphia. But what he really wanted to do was this or that. You know, that's what he wanted to do, and that's what we wanted to live in, but we had to live in historic buildings. So we visited mainly modernist buildings, mainly concrete, which is a great material, but probably other materials. So I grew up visiting famous architects, living architects' buildings, and some dead ones, and of course Frank Lloyd. You gotta worship him. New book comes out on him every year. So that was kind of what I was brought up with. I went to architecture school. I accidentally went to this place, founded by the first president of the U.S. What was he? What, 16th? What? Third president. He wrote a few documents that are important, but it's mainly an architect. No, right? I did this as an avocation. Right? You loved building Monticelli, built a lot of buildings. For a guy that was really something else. He did architecture on the side, pretty good. And of course, he said, in architecture, blank is the Bible. What did he say? Who was the Bible for Jefferson? Palladio. He wrote that to General Koch. In architecture, Palladio is the Bible. So I went to UVA thinking I was going to do modernist architecture, which I did, but I ran into Jefferson, and I kept comparing everything I did and everything my classmates did to him at the Lawn, which isn't such a great place. It's just a campus, right? It's nothing great. It's kind of like South Quad. It's no big deal. This has Doric iron, Corinthian, composite, and Tuscan, and a rotunda, and other than that, it's not that big. It's not a big deal, right? It's not that nice. And so I kept comparing everything that I was doing, everything my classmates were doing, and the buildings we were looking at to Jefferson. Big mistake. Big mistake. If you want to be a modernist, do not look at Jefferson too much. If you're studying there. Try. In fact, if you want to be a modernist, do not look at historical buildings. Like good architects. Look at the bad architects, all the bad historical buildings, like name them, all the famous bad historical buildings. Look at those. That will keep you comfortable as modernists. So anyway, I had a mistake studying there, and my teachers kept saying, you know, we're doing something as good as Jefferson, and you look at it, and you compare the two, and you say, really? It must be. I said, somewhere in my eyes. That's like this, you know? So that's what I was doing. I was comparing. It was comparing. And they said, but you can't do that anymore. It costs too much. There's no, people don't build that way anymore. You can't build an arch. You can't use stone. You can't, right? You can't. So that was true. We can't do that anymore. So I believe that. That was fine. So anyway, I had a bunch of teachers that taught me good things. They taught me history. They taught me meaning. They taught me symbolism. And really, at that time, Virginia was trying to imitate their Ivy League places where they wanted you to go to grad school. There were 3 places they wanted us to go to grad school. Princeton. If you couldn't get in there, you should go to Princeton. If you couldn't get in there, you should go to some second-rate school like Columbia. Or, where else was there? Princeton, Columbia. Oh, Cornell, which is where Colorado was. And the teachers got all their ideas for new projects from Cornell and Princeton. So when the graduate students at Princeton and Cornell did projects, a year or 2 later, they passed them down to UVA, and we did them at UVA. So we were very cutting edge. And what was in style then was, this is the early 80s. Do you know what was in style then? A lot of the faculty here studied at the same time. Postmodernism, right? History was back in. And the way I described UVA, it was Le Corbusier meets Palladio in the middle, in Tidewater, Virginia. Quite a marriage. But that's what we were taught. We were taught how to bring the best of Corbu with the best of Palladio and make this new architecture that was of our time. And I kept comparing it to this guy. The other thing that I was really struck by at UVA was the kids who got the prizes. We had competitions, actually. Do we ever do that in Notre Dame? Have competitions where you have like a weekend competition. Anybody can compete and then it's juried at the end of the weekend? Give money or something like that. The answer is no. Okay. And we would do these competitions, and I was always amazed that there were people who knew how to do the things that the faculty really liked. At the same time, we were told to look at Corbu and Palladio and memorize the Louvre Complete, which is the book by Palladio. No, it's the book by the other guy. And you're supposed to memorize all his buildings and stuff like that. Draw them and stuff. And, oh, and the Noli plan, of whatever that city is. And so I was always amazed that the kids who got the best awards or got the A's or whatever, their projects all had a certain look. I'm like, how did they know to do that? Like the teachers weren't telling them to do that, but they knew what to do. What were they doing? The kids who were really hot. And there were a couple. What were they doing? Come on, what were they doing? Yeah, but what were they? Were they looking at Corbu and Palladio? What were they looking at? What?
They're professors.
Kind of. You're warm. What?
Jefferson.
Well, no, not Jefferson. They're all looking at what we were told not to look at. You know what you're told to not look at in architecture school? Look at these famous people, these dead people, blah, 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 but don't look at the... What? Yeah, the magazines. They're all looking at the magazines. The kids who were hot were looking at the magazines and imitating the magazines. And that was the way to get an A. It was very smart. They told me not to do it, but the kids were getting A's for all doing it. And I realized this later, I'm like, what a dummy I was. I should have just done what they were doing. It's right there in the magazines. They were just doing what was trending. So I'm like, well, wait a minute. Do you want to be trendy? Then do what the magazines teach. Or do you want to do something more timeless? And that was something that stuck with me. Timeless. Timeless. What's another word for timeless? Trendy, right? Timeless. I wanted to be trendy, timeless. So I was looking for something that was timeless. And the argument was that this guy was timeless. And Palladio and Corbusier and a couple of people, they were timeless, right? That was great stuff. It doesn't matter what was going on, they're still great buildings. So I was looking for that. And thinking about it. And believe it or not, the Palazzo Massimo project where we pretended to gut the building and redesign it was a breakthrough for me. Even though you can't tell from the plan, but it was. So anyway, then for something totally different. Go to a place shocking people, confronting people, dealing with the modern age, which is pretty bad. So you're going to just express that. And that's what we were taught to do at Yale. And we tried to do that. And many of us were very successful in creating angst-ridden architecture that people would pay us a lot of money for and build and live in. That's what it was all about. And everyone who was doing it, because you're doing that kind of architecture, what does it make you feel? Really happy. My wife went to Yale, we met there. She studied painting, and we talked about nobody was happy at Yale. You said, how's it going? Yeah. I'm working on this project, it's really tough. It's true, it was a tough place, it was a tough time, and that made you great. So we're getting some principles from Jefferson and from some teachers. And at Yale, they're teaching me to be expressive and to start from ground zero, restart again. You don't have 4 years of architecture school, it's got to start from scratch, start at the beginning, get rid of all that stuff. You learn UVA, start from the beginning, we're going to teach you what, which is, you know where that comes from. Like start from scratch, you know where that starts from? In art school, in architecture school? It's the Bauhaus. Get everything you've learned about drawing a figure, we're going to teach you about. We're going to get rid of all that preconceptions. So it was a Bauhaus idea. And then we started from scratch. But that was a different place because I was a rebel there. I already knew something. I thought this T word was important. Take T. Timeless. I thought that was important. So I was pushing back. They're like, come on, we got to do something of our time. I'm like, how about do something that is of our timeless? Said, no, of our time. Of our timeless. So there's a lot of debate and argument. And that was a good thing, is that the self-expression allowed you to express yourself verbally and debate and discuss. They actually believed in freedom of speech and crappy stuff like that at the time, which was great. So we were able to fight and argue about things. And it was mainly what it was about. It was about, as my good friend said, it was really about architecture. It's what you said about your drawings that was important. And people knew how to talk very well there. And it's good, because that will give you jobs and they'll build you buildings and people will pay for them and they'll live in them and be very happy because you talked them into it. So we were taught architecture, and we were taught to be expressive, and to use the charcoal, to use various media, and not to use this stuff. No way. In fact, color was almost verboten. It's surprising. Like that's as colorful as it gets. That's good, you know, colorful. That's colorful right there. Maybe you could use some really gray limestone on this stuff. That would bring a little color into it. A little gray limestone. Maybe gray concrete. You would color the concrete gray. That would make it colorful. You could add some black to the mullions of the windows. Anyway, so there, interesting thing, I ran into this guy who used to be here. Best teacher I ever had. Used to be here, Tom Swordsmith. So he came as a visiting professor, and he stood there, and he was like a Dominican monk, friar. Like he knew the truth, and if you followed him, he would take you, and he would take you into the promised land. So a couple of us crazy people signed up for him. That was the best studio I ever had. And this was fun stuff, because it was okay to learn from history for him. And he was kind of into expression and wild colors, but he wanted you to be an archaeologist and a scholar and to read books about architecture. Actually, that's a good point. Other faculty, they wanted you to read a lot of books about other stuff and then apply it to architecture. Like learn from, are you taking a class in anthropology or in philosophy or in, oh yeah, take that book, that class you're taking, read that book and then translate it into a building. Get that into a building. Or even better, novels and poetry. Read a book by some, who am I thinking of? Some contemporary. Who's a great poet today? You don't know either. Okay. What's that? Somebody serious though. Somebody full of angst. You know, somebody full of angst. Who am I thinking of? Yeah. and turn that into a building. Yeah, that would be great. The telltale heart. Yeah. So, whereas Thomas wanted you to read about books about architecture and then apply that to architecture, and to learn from buildings. And I don't know if he used the T word, but I was very interested in the T word, the timelessness. I kept looking for the timelessness. And it was the same kind of thing. Yale is the opposite of this campus. This campus is trying to be like this guy, right? You've been there, right? And Yale is trying to be the opposite. It's trying to be what we wish we could do if we had money. We do have money. But anyway, if we had money in the 20s, we could have done it. But and Yale had a lot of money in the 20s. And so they did what we did in the 20s, which is what? Yeah, neo-Gothic. But they had money, and they spent it, like Oxford and Cambridge, and it's fantastic. So you had a great variety of architecture by a couple of really good architects, not that many. And then you had the earlier stuff, and the colonial stuff, and the classical stuff, and the modern stuff. You had famous modern stuff. And you could go around the campus with famous buildings, two by this guy, not just one, two by this guy. And you could compare them to those neo-Gothic buildings that were by James Campbell Rogers. Everybody heard of him? He's not well known. The architects didn't care about him. But you could just compare James Campbell Rogers, who did 14 buildings at Yale, to Kahn, who did 2 museums. And you could say, which is more timeless? You could also say, one's built in the 20s, one's built in the 60s, which one's falling apart now? And other things like that. And which one do the normal people like? And you can ask questions like that. You're allowed to. You should. So that was very interesting. So Tom Smith was the best teacher I had, and he got us to do an addition to this building, and it's a nice Romanesque building, and of course at Notre Dame you would just mimic that, but we were classical architects, so I did that. That's the lobby. Very, very Smithian, and something I would never do today, but he had this theory about you draw it, you design it, you make a model, you photograph the model, and then you trace it, and that's your perspective. So now, what do we do? In studio. Or perspectives. You can actually draw this stuff. You don't need a model to do that. But anyway, so that was his method of doing it. But that's what that is. That's actually from a model. And then, so that was a great studio, little projects, and got us very excited about the work on Corinthian. And of course, some of my classmates hated it, but that was fine. And then we had a studio with Rob Creer in Amiens, France. This is an art school. So that was fun. I'm doing this thing, the S thing. What's that? Skip that one, I guess. Ran out of money. And then a later studio with the Venturis, Venturi Rush and Scott Brown, and we did 2 buildings, an art museum and a hotel. I have the hotel over here. These are not necessarily drawings I'm proud of, they're just what I could find really quickly. Because Tom said, don't bring anything nice. But that's an early, that's early stuff. But anyway, two projects that we did. So nothing very finished, nothing really amazing, but like it was a process of learning. It was like figuring stuff out. Now, and the only guy in this bunch that was living and knew how to do classical architecture was who? Yeah, he's the only one. The other guys let me do it. They fought me, they encouraged me, they dissuaded me, they tried to fail me. But he's the only one that actually knew it. So the rest of the time I'm doing it all on my own. Does that make sense? Reading books and trying to do stuff. And I'm trying to be timeless. Trying to do something that stands up to that. Pick your building. That one was my building, the lawn. Or this guy. This building isn't bad in D.C. Pope and Jefferson. And so that was what I was trying to do. And that was very good. Now, one of the things that really struck me in a studio at Yale, so 2 things that were good about Yale. So self-expression, which is good and bad, the charcoal, the ability to do things and argue about things, was all good, although it can lead to architecture. But 2 things that were good. You went there because you were studying with famous architects. They weren't all famous, but they were supposedly all famous. or they would someday be famous. How about that? And all those someday will be famous architects, guess what? Why were they somewhat famous? From writing books, from doing little cute drawings, from Facebook pages, what? How do architects become famous? Yeah. So all of my teachers were architects. They were building buildings. Some were little tiny buildings, little additions to some little building that they did a little addition to, a stair tower addition. But they were all doing architecture. So that was good. They had their hand, they're getting their hands dirty, they're dealing with clients, they had budgets, and they talked about that. Whereas these guys at this place, they were pure academics with a few exceptions. They were really nice guys, very smart. They loved their vodka martinis on Saturday mornings. It was great. For the football games. It was great. But anyway, it was a good thing at Yale. So we had architects that were going to be famous, or they were famous, and they were all practicing architects. Now, the danger with studying with a bunch of famous architects is what? What happens to the curriculum? What is the curriculum? What's a curriculum made up of famous architects? They fly in, they fly out. They care very deeply about you. No. What's the curriculum? There is no curriculum. One semester is this guy, the next semester is this lady, the next semester is that guy. Right? Does that make sense? So you're getting totally buffeted by the wind. Try this, try that. We have a little bit of that here. It's not because we're famous, but there's a little bit of that. Go to Cuba one semester, then fly up to Rome, and then we do this. A little bit of that. But it could be very schizophrenic. And all the time I'm looking for timeless, I'm looking for something to rely on, and Jefferson is there, and Kahn is there, and I'm thinking Kahn might be the answer for a while, but he didn't work out as well. And then Rogers and the other stuff, James Campbell, Rogers, Gothic stuff was there, but Gothic is very easy to do, so that was kind of a dead end. And Gothic is very easy. And, because you don't have to line anything up. And then, so I'm still looking for this mentor. Anyway, when I graduated from Yale, so this is 7 years of architecture school. How are we doing, Tom? 7 years of architecture school, and I'm looking for timeless. And I'm looking for that mentor. And Jefferson's dead, and Kahn is dead, and Le Corbusier is dead. And a lot of people I've been studying are dead. So what do I do? What a lot of you guys are about to do. You're going off in the world, right? It was great. So we had 66. Well, okay, not all 66 of them were, but we had 59 and a half traditional new urbanist or classical firms come to Yale to interview. There was no such thing. Okay? There's no job interviews at Yale in the 1980s. There were, according to me at the time, there were 5 architects in this country I could work for. 5. That's it. Thomas didn't have a practice to hire people. Okay? He was doing stuff. There was Tom Beebe, who had been dean at Yale. He was my teacher. He was great. There was John Blatteau in Philadelphia. Very, very talented, very French, as you might think from his last name. There was Alvin Holm, but he didn't have much of an office. There was Bob Stern. Who's going to Bob Stern's next year? Nobody in the room? Because the students for classical architecture, you are? Okay. Bob Stern, but he wasn't a classicist. Still isn't. He does classical buildings. Okay. He's very good at it. But he wasn't really on the list. But he could have been. And then there was Alan Greenberg, who at that time was considered the top of the pops. In this very small world of people that cared, because most people didn't care about this stuff. And he had done work at the State Department and big houses for people that have big families. And want their kids to play around cosmos and stuff. Those kind of people, you know what I'm talking about. So Alan Greenberg work for minimum wage for what I thought was the best, or at least one of the top 5 living American architects. Now, I knew there were Europeans, and Leon Creer was very influential on me, and Rob Creer, I studied with him. And at that time, Leon was kind of in his classical phase. He believed in classical architecture and stuff. And, there were all kinds of interesting people at Yale at the time. There was, Andres Dwani came and taught at Yale. I mean, all kinds of people. I didn't study with him, though, because, yeah. So, I had to study with somebody else. I don't know who was studying. I had to pick somebody else. So anyway, so the 5 guys, I've got to find a job. I pushed myself when I was at Greenberg. They hired me for minimum wage, and it was great. I got married. I didn't tell them. At the last minute, I said, I'm going on my honeymoon. They said, great. You go on the next week or so? And I said, I'm going for 3 months. Really? What are you doing in 3 months? What can you do on a honeymoon in 3 months? So my wife and I then took our tour. We had never done what you guys got to do as kids. So we took our tour and went for 3 months to Italy, Spain, France, and England. Were you going to say something? Please feel free. So that was the next education, right? With your wife, drawing, sketching, watercoloring, falling in love with her. It was great. Living really cheap, you know what I mean. So that was our honeymoon. Came back to California, worked there for 3 years. Fantastic experience, fantastic experience. I learned so much from him. That was like, that was the other god in New Classical Architecture. And it was like post, they talk about it was postgraduate studies, just continuing to learn. And the people in the office were all taught you. It was fantastic. And you'll find in some of these offices that you're going to, you'll learn a lot from your colleagues or older colleagues. It was a great place. And at the time, there were two other faculty that are here now that were there, and before me there were 3 other faculty that were there. So do you know who I'm talking about? That were at Allen Greenberg's when I was there in the 80s? Sure. Richard Economopoulos and Michael Lewis. We were all there together. We were all buddies. Drinking ouzo together. But anyway, so the honeymoon, the coming back, and the timelessness, and the time in Vicenza and Venice. Rome, Vicenza, Venice, of course, is all fantastic. I mean, it's all great stuff. But that was the real falling in love with classical architecture and with this guy, Andrea Palladio, who taught, that guy, who was the Bible for Thomas Jefferson. So that was great. Then came back for 3 years and worked on university things and the White House and the this and the that. Great projects with very low budgets, with people who had big families and just wanted to play around columns, basically. It was a great experience. And I got to do a building at my alma mater and a building at William & Mary, and it was fantastic. And I got real experience doing bricks and arches and stone and stuff. And he taught me a lot. So, the other thing, I did want to mention one other story that's very interesting. Because when I was at Yale, somebody was on a jury, and they saw my project, and it was a rotunda, surprise, surprise, at a library. I was designing a library in Connecticut, and I did a rotunda, surprise, surprise, with a dome on it. And at some point you have to cut that out, right? You can't do any more rotundas, but I was still on my 3rd rotunda. And it was fun. I was still learning how to do rotundas. And it's kind of ironic, actually. Domes and rotundas in my life. But anyway, and this guy sat on the jury, and he said, you know what, I think you're really interested in the B word. I said, what's the B word? You think he meant? You're really interested in the B word. What? Come on. Firmness, commodity, and beauty. You're interested in beauty. I'm like, beauty? Don't talk about that here, Yale. You're interested in beauty, and you should pursue that, and you should learn more about beauty, and that's great. Keep working on beauty. And the next person stood up and presented a practice and says, you're really interested in ugliness? Keep doing that. oddity, you might talk about, yeah, you talk about functionalism, that's about it. I mean, you talk about some kind of functional items, but beauty was out. And that was like an eye-opener. So that was very helpful. The Vitruvian triad is when in doubt, and when you're locked in that jail cell in the modernist prison, just remember, firmitas, utilitas, and venustas, that will keep you sane. It's very important. So, grew up here, and that guy was very important. So, after all of that, Thomas Gordon Smith took this job at this Catholic school in the Midwest, which had a football team, a football school that had an architecture school. And he invited me to apply for the job. I came out here, never been here before in my life, didn't know anything about it, don't know anything about football, hate Irish people. And that was 26 years ago. It was great. It was great. Best thing ever happened. We taught in Rome for a year. And when the year that we taught in Rome, I had money to let me measure the light. And I also had letters written in Latin. What was the language? Latin. And letters written in Latin that I could give to Italian contes and contessas and signores and signoras to get into their palaces and their villas. And I did. And there were a bunch of them that were under restoration, so I climbed up on scaffolding and got very dirty and measured buildings, not the part that everybody measures, the plan section elevation, which you should do, but the parts that are very hard to measure, which is the full-scale molding. So I have about 50 drawings like this. And this is really hard to draw. To measure a volute. How do you do that in like egg and darts? But we actually had paper and we would press it up against it and had pieces of lead, which you shouldn't do because it'll kill you. But the thing about lead is you can press it against the stone and you can pull it off the stone and guess what? It keeps the shape. So we would draw, we had a little drafting board and we would get up there on scaffolding 40 feet up and we would draw all these moldings. This is a capital from Palazzo Portofesta. All kinds of buildings that Palladio did. It was fantastic. And that was the best way to learn from this dead master. So I think I had discovered timeless architecture. I visited all his buildings and drew them. That combined with being here and trying to teach young architects about classical architecture and then designing buildings on my own was kind of the career and the timelessness, the beauty, the different things I learned from many smart people, but especially these dead guys, Jefferson, Pope, Palladio. That guy was great, but I had to, had to go beyond that. And and I continue to work in this way, and then this is a project we're just about to break ground on right now. You can see the round building keeps coming back. So that's my convert story, and I'd like to hear your comments or thoughts now.
So at either universities, did you find anybody, like a colleague or a member of the faculty besides Thomas Gordon Smith who really challenged you or made you see the light or anything? Yeah, just...
Yeah, lots of people were there. It was great. It was a great time. I hate to say it's not that way now. It's not that way now. Who's going to Yale next year? Nobody. I talked to my daughter out of going there. I'm very negative about going to graduate school right now. Unless you want to teach. I don't believe in it for you guys. Unless you're in graduate school here. Or you want to come to graduate school here, that's fine. I'm very negative about it. There's not much you can learn from those guys. Except how to not do what you were taught here. If you want to learn how not to do what you were taught here, go to any architecture school and you do fine. Just forget everything that we taught you. That's great. You'll be fantastic. They'll love you. You can have convert to atheism story. I mean, a convert to whatever it's called story. But no, there were lots and lots of people at Yale. Oh, the other thing at Yale that was really interesting was there were famous historians that were interested in what we were doing. There's Vincent Scully. You've heard about him. Everybody loved him. He had one of the most popular courses at the university. Who's the most popular course at Notre Dame? Undergraduate. Oh, boring. This place is intense. You don't even have finance yet for undergraduates. You don't even have business school. You know that Ivy Leagues do not have business school for undergraduates? Oh. Carl Ackerman's finance guy. That sounds good. Anyway, the class that everybody took Yale was Vincent Scully's History of Architecture class. That says a lot. And then some of those guys become your clients. It's good.
What was the class called?
Scully's class? I don't know. History of Western Architecture.
Oh, I thought it was called Gods and Bods. Was it?
Well, what did you call it?
That's what Yale is called.
Yeah.
Gods and Bods.
Gods and Bods. Yes, that's good. Gods and Bods. That's good. Because he starts with the Greek temple, the gods. The birth of the gods and the temple. Yeah, that's good. A lot of Greek sculpture and stuff. That's good. All right, what else? So lots of good people. Oh, there was a couple of historians who were very interested in classical architecture, which was fantastic. Thomas got them all to come to our juries. There were a lot of people from the university they bring in as kind of jurors. Like when we did this project, the Institute of Sacred Music, they brought the head of the Institute of Sacred Music to sit on the jury. But we do that here a little bit too. It was just a great experience. Other questions, comments?
Yeah, how did you find your way to do most of the church design? Like, was that as soon as you went out on your own after working at a bunch of firms?
So I confess. That there was no alternative. That's a joke. So, believe it or not, when I came here, the first year I was here, I was in charge of the Randbush Prize, which was a little competition, a weekend competition, mainly, I think it was all fifth years. We did a little one-day competition to design a church. I gave out the project. The fifth years old did it. This is 1990. And the results were atrocious. They were so bad. These are all kids who went to study where? For 9 months. They were pathetic. They looked like the churches they grew up in suburbia. You know, the ones that look like this, and they have the ceilings like this, and the ceilings are made out of blue lamb beams. They all look like that. Horrendous. So I said, there's got to be something we can do about this. And I started teaching it to the sophomore design, and I taught it in the freshman year. We started reading crazy things like the Temple of Solomon, you know, from the Old Testament. And we could reconstruct it, you know, which isn't that hard to do, but it's fun. And so I started doing that, and then I would teach it at other classes and so on. And then somebody called me up, and I did a project, and of course they paid me very well, and so that's why I'm here today. And the first 5 things didn't get built, but they got me notoriety and published, and then we got a building, and they actually built it. They were crazy, and they believed me when I said it would be $3 million, and it turned out to be 6. And I kept going and kept building things. Don't believe a young architect what it's going to cost. In fact, I was just in a meeting with a very savvy client who builds a lot. And they said, well, this is very early in the project. They said, well, what do you think it's going to cost, Duncan? And I'm thinking, wow, I know these people don't want to spend the money. And I said, well, I better tell them. I said, I think it's $5 million. He says, really? I thought it was going to be 20. I said, darn it. I wish I had gone a little higher. We've got gold leaf everywhere. So he said, so then he said, and then the other guy said, no, I think, you know, the foundation and the limestone and the this and the that. He goes, ionic capitals aren't that expensive. I said, no, they're about $250 a piece, $30. And just had them all up. And he said, yeah, I think $5 million is about right. I said, well, it could be more than 5. You know, it could be more than 5. So he says, all right, so for $10 million, we'll do the project, and then blah, blah, blah. I said, that's the kind of client you want. Just double it. Just to be sure. Because obviously a client with $10 million isn't very much for. This is like a small project. This is their weekend house, you know, it's not a great house. You know. What else? Does that answer the question, kind of? Oh, but you're the real answer. So I did a couple of projects, and then this guy, where he went to school, the president of the school got in touch with me. We had mutual friends, people that taught here actually, and he got in touch with me, and we were talking and stuff. And I said, well, I'm doing a tour of Rome and Florence next summer for 2 weeks. And he said, oh, I'm very interested. Why should I come? And I said, you're doing a chapel on your campus. He says, yeah. I said, this is R&D. You know what that is? Rest and relaxation. What is it?
Research and development.
Yeah, think about this as research and development. So the president came with me for 2 weeks to Rome and Florence. We saw all the best stuff. He loved St. Paul outside the walls. That was his favorite building. Later on, he loved San Sabino. And 3 years later, he asked me to take place in a competition to do a chapel. And we did it, and it was took me about 10 years to build it, but it was a hit. And so we've tried to do that kind of stuff. It pays the rent. And church architecture is interesting if you do it well, and you do it in the classical tradition, because it's one of the few things where you can, clients don't actually argue about using columns, like clients do. And like Corinthian capitals, yeah, it's a church. They don't really argue about that. I don't get any pushback for it. So Duncan, why wouldn't you just use an ionic for our church? They don't say that. Like in a house, like Corinthian, have you guys worked on a house with Corinthian columns? Somebody has, no? I'm going to two award dinners for Peter Penoyer, and he's done some houses with Corinthian columns. It's not normal. In fact, your brother came here and said, do you remember what he said? He said what nobody does anymore, so he didn't include it in his book. He said, nobody does composite anymore. So I just don't do it. I just got rid of it. It's kind of like a Corinthian with some extra stuff you don't need. It doesn't have any function. Like regular Corinthian stuff. Which is a lot of function.
It's Corinthian.
Yes, Corinthian. So he said, they're so composite. I said, Andres, I don't know about everybody else, but I do them. Almost every building we do composite columns. Because at a high altar, you want to have the best, not Doric. Sorry. So yeah, we do a lot of composite columns too. Anyway, that's the fun thing about churches. The other thing is you could do a room that's 60 feet tall. How many of you have done a room that's 60 feet tall? You do a room that's 60 feet tall. In fact, most of the rooms I design are 60 feet tall. Because that's what churches have to be. Because we're 6 feet, 5'2", 6'5". You have to make a church that's 10 feet taller than us, right? Well, if it's a big church, you do. So that's fun. That's fun stuff. Other thoughts, comments? Yes, ma'am.
What's a mistake you made in practice?
Oh, lots. Other than telling the clients the price is too low? Lots of mistakes. Oh my goodness. The thing I like to emphasize, we were just talking about this with the fifth-year studio, is that the building is done when the drawings are done. You have nothing to do, you don't have any chance after the drawings are done. Right? No, the building is done when the building is done, and you catch mistakes during construction all the time. You hope you catch most of them. Most of the big mistakes in my buildings were done by the contractor or the local architect. And they were done, and they didn't tell me about it because they were smart about telling me about it. And so by the time I caught it, it was finished, and the plasterers were gone. And the client didn't want to pay to have them come back because the architect told them to do it. It wasn't like the contractor did a mistake. The architect told them to make a mistake. So those are the big mistakes that are still there, and I couldn't do anything about it. And if I was a wealthy architect, like I don't know who, like San Sabino or Bronze or something, I would have paid to do it myself because it's bad stuff, and I don't want to admit what we are. I tell most people, they're innovative things. So if you see something in my work that looks innovative, it probably is a mistake. If another architect says it's innovative, he probably means it is. But if I say it's innovative, it probably is a mistake by the other architect. How about that? I don't know. I can't really think of anything, but there's lots of mistakes. We do it all the time. We're always getting better. We're always trying to get better. How about that? Trying. And the people in the office are so crucial to that. And Michael Limber just told me the other day, he says, we were talking about this and he's thinking about opening up another office, and I said, it's going to be on 5th year jury. And he said, we're buddies at Alabama, and he said, I have really good staff. I have 5 people that have been with me for 15 years more. I can trust them. I said, is that how long it takes? He says, yeah. After 15 years, you can trust them. They will do 95% of what you want. It takes a long time to trust somebody. A long time for somebody to be really good. Not just really good, but really good for that firm. Does that make sense? To get in the groove with that principal, that designer, whoever you're working for. It's kind of scary, but that's reality. So I have good people, but they've only been there 14 years, so I can't trust them. Yeah.
Speaking about like, innovation, I've been part of like an ongoing conversation with some young architects and young architectural designers that are kind of bringing up the question of like innovation and invention,
Yes.
and whether or not like classicism is reaching this point to which it's, they always talk about like calls to order and the drift, and they were wondering if it's gotten stale, if that should be a path, should that be a conscious decision that you're making to try to innovate and invent within the tradition?
Yes. Yeah, it is. I think any talented, mature classical architect is trying to innovate.
And how do you go about doing that?
But they all do it differently, and just because we try, well, when you try, that's always good, right? Right? It's the thought that counts, right? As long as you try, so look at that building. Have you ever thought about this? How many people would like to put a plaque in front of the building? They say, what do you got to know about this building? It's like, cut the budget. The clapper's a pain. I was going to do some other things there. What if you could do that on every building? Guess what? Like, you don't get that, right? The building's built, you succeeded or not, you succeeded really well or not, and it's the same with innovation. We're always trying. I think any talented classical artist is trying to innovate. And people do it at different levels. Some guys think you reinvent the wheel in classicism. Okay, try that. Just like, the famous dead architect that did that all the time. What's his name? I can't think of it, but anyway. How do we innovate? I don't know. We bring different ideas together and try to make them into a new thing. I don't know. We're trying so hard today just to do something really great. I'm more interested in doing something great than innovative. But we're always trying to innovate. I'm always trying different things. We're always doing different things. Which is the great thing about AutoCAD, because we did that first building 10 years ago on AutoCAD, and I had to do organic Corinthian composite in there. I don't have to worry about this anymore. We can just innovate on the fun stuff. The plans, the floor patterns and stuff. We can put those in there too, it's good. I'm kidding. You have to keep innovating with everything. I like the quote of Lutyens, who said, when he was hired to do a building in Rome at the exposition in the 30s, whatever, and it turned into the British Academy, and they asked him to do the building or the facade or whatever, and he said, I came to Rome, and I was surprised. I saw all my best ideas had already been done. This is one of the most innovative architects of the 20th century, in my view. He went to Rome and he saw it all. It had already been done. So, yes, innovate. Please, keep doing that. That makes it fresh, it makes it beautiful, makes it great. But don't trick yourself and think that you're going to do something that Moderna, Michelangelo, Sansovino, Semichelli, Guarini haven't tried before. Probably they have. It doesn't matter, though. You don't need to know that they did. You should go ahead and do that. But don't be surprised. Don't trick yourself. And then there's all the French guys and the British guys and the German guys and the Spanish guys. I mean, there's so many great architects that it's kind of chutzpah to think that we're going to come up with something new. But you might come up with something new for this place, for this client, for this type, for this time, and you're going to have to include all the things they didn't have to worry about, like closets, water closets, exit signs, codes, ramps, elevators, fire stairs, and they didn't have to do that stuff. And that takes talent to do all that stuff well. So I love innovation, and we try to do it all the time, but I don't know. I think it's a balance with excellence. Bob Stern, this is not the way he talks today, but when he came to Yale to be really contrarian to us, because that's what he is, he's a contrarian. He comes to Notre Dame, he talks about modernism, he goes to Yale, he talks about classicism. But when he told us in 1985, I thought it was brilliant. He says, I'd rather be good than interesting. I think that's a great quote. I'd rather be good than fill in the blank. Whatever, interesting, innovative, of our time, whatever. theses, great final projects, and keep up the good work, students for classical architecture.